All right, the Belltech 965 SP. Let's go ahead and get the rear shocks removed and get the springs changed out. I'm going to show you guys how to do that to get that nice 4-inch back slope there so everything matches to the front. So we'll go ahead and get that truck up on some jack stands and we'll get the tires off. Okay, so once you get the back tire off, well, obviously we're on jack stands on the back, supported a little bit on the pumpkin back there. So what we need to do is have a 8mm socket. We got to get all the wheel liner bolts off. Don't forget you got one here and one here as well. So let's go ahead and get those off. And then we can take the wheel liner out. So I'm going to start on this side. And then we can just pull it down out. Okay, so underneath here, we got to disconnect a couple things. Got to take off the shock, the whole thing, 13/16 or 21mm bolts, depending on which wrench or socket fits best for you. Either one of those is going to work. Then we have to take off this back here, and let's get to it. Okay, so the end links here, they are 18mm. Up top, you're going to have 18mm socket and box, and then at the bottom, what we're going to have to do is, once again, have 8mm for the end holding it while we spin it off with an 18mm. So let's get that done. Go ahead and pull that off. The kit has smaller ones that you're going to want to use, so you can just disregard those ones. Okay, let's get to the shock. Now here's where the little tool I was talking to you about earlier is going to come into play. So basically what we did was, you can do two different things. Some people bend it, some people use a crescent wrench. This is what I did. All right, this is a 21mm box. So basically if you cut it off like this, it'll fit nice up in there, and then it'll attach to the back, and then you'll be able to spin that nut off without a problem. You'll see. You can also do 13/16. It depends. Sometimes with bolts, the other one will fit better. In this case, it is the 21mm for me. Okay, so we have our 21mm socket and 21mm box. All right, let's go ahead and get the back of this put on there. So all you do is just come in here and just slide it in. Just make sure it's nice and snug on here, and watch this, it'll just come right out. And there we go. It's that easy. If you have a spare 21, I had this junky Harbor Freight one. I don't care about cutting it up because it's Harbor Freight tools. So go ahead and get one of those to cut up. That's how you get the back shock out, nice and easy. Let's go ahead and get the bottom mount out. And there's the shock out. We'll go ahead and get the next step going. Let's go ahead and lower this rear end. Okay, let's see if we can get them out. Here, just a little tug, because I don't really want to stretch it. I guess we got a lot more slack left. So, okay, so the kit also came with the new bump stops, smaller ones. So we're gonna just take those out by hand, and all we do is slide the other ones back up. Okay, so we went ahead and the back springs are loosely put in. So what you're going to want to do is jack the rear end back up a little bit to get some pressure to make sure these are seated properly. They have little tabs on there. So you're going to want to line them up as best as you can. Mine are kind of worn off, but it is pretty on point right now. So I'm going to go ahead and jack both sides up. So like I said, the springs are in both sides now, so you just got to make sure they're just not flopping around in there. Okay, so both shocks are in there semi-snug. So then we can go ahead and, both springs are in there semi-snug. So we're going to want to put on the shocks. And when you're putting on the shocks, make sure they are facing this way so that dirt doesn't get into that bottom part. Obviously, I know it's something stupid, but you never know. People do dumb stuff. So just giving you a heads up. So let's go ahead and get those on. My, that is full stroke. That is a big difference. So we're gonna have to jack it up some more to get these suckers to fit. So let's get the top one put back on, and we'll go from there. Now once again, this is going to go back on with that stupid stubby little thing that we had to make because people don't know how to design stuff without having idiotic tools to use. Okay, so just a little side note here before we get to the relocation bracket. When you're putting in the links, okay, so just so you know, these are different types of links that are currently on the truck. These are the ones that were on the truck. They have the ball end here that moves around. So that's not what you're switching to. You'll be using these ones right here, the shorter ones. I'm going to be upgrading to a set of Moogs, but that's at a later date. And the hardware for these is 3/4. That's what I've found that that works the best for these. So you're going to want to get a 3/4 socket and wrench to get those put on. Okay, so now that we have everything put in there, the links and the shocks and the springs with the new bounce stops there, bump stops, we can work on the relocation bracket, which is this piece of hardware right here, and it comes with these couple nuts and bolts here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on that part right in there. If you can see that bolt head right there, it's got a flag nut on the back of it, so it's going to make it a lot easier to take off. So let's go ahead and get that removed, and then we can get this relocation bracket installed and drop this thing down, see what it looks like. Relocation bracket, we want to get this side right here. This is the driver's side. That's where the bracket goes, the drop bracket. So 21 millimeter. Let's get it off. Okay, so the panhard bar relocation bracket, it's going to face like this. It's gonna dip into here, and then it's gonna lock in right there. So what we have is we have this bolt and nut with the sleeve is gonna go up top. Now what you don't see, it's kind of hard, up underneath, like right here where my finger is, there's another hole. That's where the smaller nut and bolt are gonna go to lock this into place. So let's go ahead and get that put on. Here's a side view of that relocation bracket. So you'll notice that that little nut that we were talking about earlier pops up through there. Now that one, the nut and the bolt are both 14 millimeter. And the top one, you're going to want to use a 21 millimeter on the bolt and a 22 millimeter on the nut. Here it is, 2017 4x4 Ram 1500 with the 2.4 drop. All installed and lowered and ready to go. I got to hit the road with it, take a test drive to see how it drives. The back's about a 1/2 inch, a little bit less than that, lower than the front. But like I said, with how stiff that was, it's going to ride down another 1/2 inch here every time. But